What challenges could prevent you from starting or continuing on the path of full-time service? And more importantly, how can you overcome those challenges? Well, let's talk about 3 obstacles. Here's the first one. It's financial concerns. How am I going to support myself? Well, let's look at something that Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6. Observe intently the birds of heaven. They do not sow seed or reap or gather into storehouses, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not worth more than they are? So never be anxious and say, what are we to eat, or what are we to drink, or what are we to wear? For all these are the things the nations are eagerly pursuing. Your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. Well, do you get the sense of this? Jesus was trying to reason that just as Jehovah provides for all of his creation, he can provide for you too. We just need to develop our faith that Jehovah will provide the things we need if we put his service first.
Will he now, Mark Sanderson? Well, I have personal experience to the contrary. I was a pioneer. I was in full-time service for about 9 years when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And pioneering, in case you're interested, in case you don't know, because maybe you've not been a Jehovah's Witness, pioneering involves committing to doing 70 hours per month in the preaching work. 70 hours per month. So the only work typically that you can get, that can be sandwiched in, would be a part-time job. You don't need me to tell you that in most cases, part-time jobs or good paying part-time jobs can be harder to find than full-time jobs. So I did this pioneer work and I went from job to job. I found myself in some really rubbish situations work-wise. I can remember operating enveloping and bill folding machinery for Shell Oil. That was a temp job. I tried window cleaning for a few months and fell off my ladders several times, which caused me to quit. I was treating people's lawns and killing people's weeds and pulling moss out of people's lawns. I was doing all sorts of really mucky, unpleasant jobs because I was following this sort of advice that Mark Sanderson is giving to an entire generation of young people. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry about money. Everything's just going to magically sort itself out. Well, how it sorted itself out for me was that in addition to having rubbish work and work that I hated, work that I really didn't enjoy, I also ended up with a mountain of debt. A mountain of debt that I had even when I got married, and which only increased once I was married and pioneering alongside my wife. So it was really, really difficult and frankly depressing, because I don't care what anyone says about, money can't buy you happiness. It can't, but not having money certainly can buy you unhappiness. It sucks to be broke, and it sucks to not just be broke, but to be in debt. And this is an organization that doesn't really care that much about whether people get into debt, so long as they're doing so in pursuit of kingdom interests. Everything's just going to magically sort itself out. And when you factor in as well the doomsday element, the doomsday consideration, so that young Jehovah's Witnesses are watching this thinking, well, even if I go into debt, the system's going to end soon anyway, so I'll never actually need to pay off the debt because we're on the brink of Armageddon. That's the mentality, I'm telling you, that you have as a Jehovah's Witness, that you have as a Jehovah's Witness pioneer. And in my case, it saddled me with unfathomable debt, which it took me years and years to pay off. Frankly, this reasoning that Mark Sanderson is giving, as I allude to, or Tibor and I have alluded to there in the video montage, it's just silly. It doesn't make any sense. And I appreciate there are many Christians watching who think that every single word that fell out of Jesus' mouth was just profoundly wise and true. But self-evidently, when you look at nature, not all birds do brilliantly. Not all lilies of the field do brilliantly. It's possible for both birds and vegetation to suffer for whatever reason, whether through drought, whether through predators in the case of birds and other animals. What does Mark Sanderson have to say about instances where birds do get killed or where lilies of the field disappear into a sinkhole? Manifestly, nature is filled with destruction, including destruction that impacts on vegetation and animals. So I'm sorry, it's just a bad illustration. It's a bad analogy. And it's even worse when clowns like Mark Sanderson, who has lucked out with this incredibly privileged role of being not just a cult leader, but arguably the cult leader for Jehovah's Witnesses, it's grossly irresponsible for him to be using such an overtly flawed analogy to browbeat young Jehovah's Witnesses into becoming drones that will spend 70 hours per month promoting him and his organization.